Right, so I'm finally going to get this air steering or pneumatic steering assist set up, all refitted. Finally got all the parts together. The part that broke was this track rod end, and the ball literally come apart. I've got the old piece there, look, and it all collapsed, and that end gets bolted on a bracket on the axle, and when that sheared off, the whole lot was just sort of hanging down. It was still attached to the bracket, but this end was hanging down, you know, about 6 inches above the road. So I just took the lot off, and it's been off ever since. Yesterday afternoon I refitted all the drag link. Well, that's the pneumatic actuator. You know, I took that off as well and just put a big solid round there, which I think was a bad idea because it's quite heavy. Since I've put it all back together, the steering's a lot lighter. But once it's all back together, I've got to make all the adjustments on the drag link ends. So it's not that easy, but I've got to get it finished. Right, so I've got the drag link reassembled to the cone. The only difference, the new drag link comes with a castle nut and a split pin, but there's no way I'm going to get the split pin fitted while it's inside the cone. And the old nut was a different thread to the new thread, so I'll just put the original split washer back on and put the new castle nut on, so it's not an issue. So now the process now is to refit it back on the tie rod. Right, the cone clamps onto the tie rod, and you can see where it was because there's the old paint markings there, which I'm grateful of because I totally forgot to mark it before I took it off. So all I've got to do now is clamp this on there, and then I can put the actual pneumatic ram on. Well, so I've got 4 bolts in. There should be 6, 3 at the bottom, 3 at the top, but one's missing. I think it was threaded, and the other one I'm not going to put in. I'm going to keep that one with me in the cab and go and see if I can match 2 more up, and then once I do, I'll fit the other 2. But for now, we just torque these ones down, and then to lock them, it's the old-fashioned way of locking them. They're not no-lock nuts, they're just double nuts. So once I've torqued them down, which is a case of doing it by feel, I'm not going to bother putting a torque wrench on, so I don't think it's necessary. Just keep going quarter turns until it gets stiff. Yeah, that'll do. I'll just put the 4 locking nuts on now, if I can get the spanner off. Yeah. So just put the 4 locking nuts on now. Right, so I've run all the locking nuts down with my fingers, like that. And just nip them up. Last one. Right, so that's that bit done. Now I've just got to put the actual pneumatic ram on, and then we can put air to it, and hopefully it should all work. Right, so this is the ram, and then this end screws onto that track rod end that I've just fitted on, and obviously the other end bolts onto the bracket that's mounted onto the axle. And once you've threaded it in, there's a grub screw there which you tighten down, that holds it in place. So now I've got to manhandle that underneath there. Right, so got myself back under here, this tiny gap. The problem I've got now though is I've got to put this on, but I've got to turn the whole cylinder over and over and wind it all the way up. And I thought about putting it on before I put the clamp on, but I thought it would probably be more awkward trying to bolt all this cone back onto the tie rod with the actual pneumatic ram attached. So as long as that grub screw is backed out a bit, not too far so I don't lose it, then should be alright. And actually I'm just going to put some grease on there. So I'm going to have to use grease because I ain't got no copper anti-seize. And I've measured the depth inside there and the depth of the thread, and you've basically got to run it all the way down as far as it will go. And thread it. Let's see. Right, so got it wound down, so I'm just going to tighten that grub screw up now. Right, got the grub screw on, so just put the boot up now. It's all come apart there, so I might be able to save that. I can cut the old tie off and then slip that over, and hopefully I can put another zip tie on and keep it tight, but do that after. Right, so the last part, putting the bushings in. This would probably be the most trickiest part. So I couldn't figure out where to get new bushings from, so they're the same old bushings. So I don't know how this is going to go, but probably very difficult. Yeah, that ain't going to work. Just pushing in after. Oh dear. It's going to take a while. Right, so I've just spent the last half an hour trying to feed these rubber bushings in. Ended up having to poke them in with a screwdriver, and then the sleeves wouldn't go in very well, and then I got them in, and then I realised I forgot to put the bloody washer on the bolts, so I had to strip the bolt out, get the sleeves off. So should fit okay now though, he says. See if I can get the nut on one thread. Nope. Oh dear. Got to tap the sleeve, but not the thread. Oh, whatever. Fuck's sake. Oh no. So that's the problem when you use old bushings, but I can't figure out where to get new bushings from. I can't find anything on the internet about this air assist steering, nothing at all. So if anybody watching this video, if you know anything about it, or if you've got any experience with using them yourself, put it down in the comments and I'll be able to respond. But for now, I think we've just about done it. Right. Nice one, it's all back together. fuck for that. Like I say, I wish I could have found new bushings, so if anybody knows anything about this, put it in the comments and I'll reply to you. Much appreciated. Right, so now the fun part, put the hoses on, put some air to it and see if it works. Get all the tools out first, just push them out. Right, so that's what it looks like from underneath. You can just see it there. And if you just look at the bottom of the axle there, and then look at the cylinder, it's about 2, maybe 3 inches lower than the actual axle, so doesn't really sit too low or anything. Right, so the short hose is the main feed from the switch down to the cylinder that goes on the cylinder that's on the drag link. So we'll fit that first. Bollocks. Well, should be three quarter, but there's the paint on there stopping me, so oversized spanner. Just going to try and hold the camera, do it at the same time. That's shit. Oh, so I've got the one hose on. That's the feed hose. I've just got to put the two main hoses on. I've got the 2 valves up there. I taped them up. But the problem is now, well, it's not a problem, but the issue now is I'm not sure which valve or which port is for which. So I'll just connect the hoses to the pneumatic cylinder, and then we'll have to put air to it. Turn the steering wheel just turn it to the left, and whichever one starts putting air out, the left hose must be the one that goes to the bottom end of the ram to push it out, and then that, because then it'll push it that way, the wheels will turn to the left, and then obviously steering to the left. So let's get the hoses connected. this hose has got a natural curve, so I can tell, because I can't remember which hose and where, so I can tell that that should go on there, because all I do remember is they sort of, the hose is sort of hooked over the top of the springs. That's all I can really remember. Should have took photos when I stripped it down, but whatever. I think I'll probably, once I've got it all set up and I know it's working, I'll go and take these hoses off and we'll have some brand new ones made. Oh, it's, hoses are all on. There, hose on that end, looped up over the springs. Just got to connect them to the cylinder on the drag link, and hopefully it all works. Right, so the switch for it is on the floor, so if I just flick the switch over, initiate the air, put the air on. Now we just turn the steering wheel to the left and air should rush out one of those holes, or one of those ports. Fucking doing everything one-handed here. So I can't get it. Fuck's sake. Well, that's it. I'll just figure out which port it's coming from. So that's the one that's got to go to the bottom end. That port feeds that end. Right, so that's the hose for the bottom end of the ram, and the air was rushing out of that port, so obviously that hose has got to go on that port. Okay, so I've realised I've fucked up here now, because the port's pointing down and it's causing the hoses to interfere with the top of the spring. And although this part will twist all the way around, it's solid at this end, so I'm going to have to take all these screws out, turn the whole lot one setting round, which means I'm going to have to, I won't have to take the drag links apart, but I will have to jack it up completely off the ground. That's the problem with mechanical stuff, there's so many adjustments you can make. So, right, will have to be done. Right, so I've had a rethink. I've decided I'm not going to jack it completely off the ground and just dismantle it from there. I'm going to do it the proper way. I'm going to have to take the end cap out on the drag link, disconnect this end of the drag link from the ball. And the reason why is because I can take all these screws out, but when it comes to putting it back together, I might end up putting a screw in the wrong way and I could end up threading a screw. So might as well do it the proper way. But before I jack anything up, I'm just going to loosen all these off first. I've started some already. One of these, the Allen key wouldn't fit in very well, but I can't remember whether it was one on this end or one on that end. I had to put vice grips on, twist it. I mean, they've got split washers, so you know, once you've broke it free from the split washer, you can take them out with your fingers. But if I dismantle it now and then try and undo them, I'll be able to hold it at one end and undo it with the other end, so I might as well loosen all these off now. So I'll get that done. Right, so I've loosened them screws off. I've bent the pin over, so I know that's going to come out. Now I've just got to back the cap out. Ah, look at that, that's the only drag link socket I can find. I need a 2-inch, well, 1 3/4 inch by 1/4 inch slot. It does the job, but it'd be better if I had the proper one. Look at that, it's just slipping up and down. To back it virtually all the way out. Right, that's on the last thread now. Right, so now I've got to jack it up off the deck a bit. Just jack the one wheel off the ground, and then I can climb back up in the cab, turn the steering wheel to the left and right, and then that'll pull it. It'll pull the drag link off the knuckle, and then I can just get back underneath and pop it up then. So put the jack handle in the worst place possible. Right, so I've got the wheel off the ground, 1/2 inch, so I might be able to push it on my foot. I'll just put the camera up there and see what happens. So if I just put my foot on the wheel now and push it over to the right, that should pop out. I'm gonna have to get in the cab. I'm gonna have to get inside the cab, turn the steering wheel. I'll have to take it out completely. It's freed now. There it is. All that just for this. All that just so I can twist this like that and fucking put it back together. For fuck's sake. Can't even see the fucking holes. Right, you get the gist of it. Just gonna have to pause it while I fuck about with this. Right, so I've got all the little nuts back in, so I've just got to sit the ball back into the drag link socket. That's it. Now I've got to put the end cap back in and tighten it all up, and we can start again. All that because I've positioned that wrong. So those ports are now on the top. So I have to turn this, wind it all the way in till it bottoms out, then turn it back half a turn, or until the slot lines up with the hole, so I can put the split pin in, or the cotter pin. So turn it as far as I can by finger, and then put my not very good drag link socket in. Get that stupid air pipe out of the way. Right, so that's bottomed out. So now we turn it back half a turn until the slot lines up with the hole, which that looks about right. Put the pin back in. Right, so everything's back together, back to where we started from. And those ports, can't quite see them now, but they're perfectly positioned. So I'm just going to fit the air hoses on, and hopefully it should all work. Literally a grease monkey at the moment, covered in grease. But just to let you know, I've got it off the jack now, because you don't want to get yourself in a position like this with it jacked up. So if ever it come down, you'd be fucking stuck. Probably break your fucking collarbone. Right, everything is connected. Let's build up the air and give it a whirl. Right, we're all bolted back together, everything's reconnected, air pressure's sufficient, so let's give it a whirl. Well, first of all, try it with the air off, and yeah, hang on. Right, this is with the air off. I can hardly bloody move it, I'm having to put my shoulders in. Switch it on. That. Nice one. Sorted. The only downside to it is it really uses the air up quick. So, I mean, you can see the red lights on already. So, in the future I might fit an extra tank on, an extra reservoir tank, solely for the air steering. But for now, just leave it as it is. Next step, I've got an air pressure valve, so I'm going to fit that on the switch, and I'm going to put a red light on the, move that button to there because that's for my washers. So I'm going to put another light like that, a red one there, and I'll wire that to the switch. Then I'll know that if I've left it switched on, because you can't leave it on when you're driving down the road because the steering's way too light, and it's easy to like accidentally leave it switched on. So, but I'll do all that tomorrow.